Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunati Ravanachari Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvase Sunyavadi Paskatya Deshatarane Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Vanchakapachubhischa Kripasindhavyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vanchakapachubhischa Kripasindhavyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today is March 27th, 2025, Bhakti Center in New York. And we are going to be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 84, text 52 to 61. So I've actually, interesting. Okay, I've copied this into a file. So text 52. Then at the appropriate, this is at the, at Kurukshetra after the solar eclipse, when the Yadus and the Vrishnis and the residents of Vrindavan and so many other people were gathered together. This is after the eclipse. So text 52. Then at the appropriate time, and according to scripture, Vasudeva remunerated the priest by decorating them with precious ornaments, although they were already richly adorned, and offering them valuable gifts of cows, land, and marriageable girls. So this concept of giving remuneration to the priests is essential. Krishna says if we don't do that, then our ceremonies, our rituals are all in the mode of ignorance. They're all in tamagun. So the priests are not supposed to be given a salary, but they're supposed to be given in charity. And the reason for this is that this way they're not beholden or obliged to anyone. Of course, nowadays, sometimes we say, well, don't pay brahmanas. Yeah, but you got to give them remuneration or they can't live. 53, after supervising the Patmi Samyaya and Abhabhita rituals, Abhabhita is a bath, the great Brahmin sages bathed in Lord Parasuram's lake with the sponsor of the sacrifice, Vasudeva, who led them. His sacred bath complete, Vasudeva joined with his wives in giving the jewelry and clothes they had been wearing to the professional reciters. Vasudeva then put on new garments, after which he honored all classes of people by feeding everyone, even the dogs. So the royalty were wearing very opulent, very expensive clothing, often covered with jewels. And as far as the reciters, the musicians and stuff, they were paid with this clothing that had been worn once by the royalty. And then they fed everybody. 55, with opulent, 55, 56, with opulent gifts, he honored his relatives, including all their wives and children, the royalty of the Vidarbha, Koshala, Kuru, Kashi, Kekaya, and Srinjaya kingdoms, the officiating members of the assembly, and also the priests, witnessing demigods, humans, spirits, forefathers, and charanas. Then, taking permission from Lord Krishna, the shelter of the goddess of fortune, the various guests departed as they all chanted the glories of Vasudeva's sacrifice. So we don't have a BBT purport, but we do have a purport from Srila Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Jiva Goswami has the same commentary. Their commentary is he also worshipped all men, Nara, Pramatas, Bhuta. Pramatas are spirits. And devatas are the celestial beings, the angels, the demigods. But the bhutas can be like nature spirits, like, elves and gnomes. And, in Iceland, they make little houses for these beings. They call them the hoodoo folk, and they make sure that they're also propitiated. In the Hinduism practice in Bali, they make sure that the bhutas are both the bhutas and the devas are. So in front of every Hindu house, there is an altar. There's no deity in it, but there's an altar. And in the top part of the altar, they make offerings for the devatas. And at the bottom of the altar, they make offerings for the bhutas. And in this way, they make sure that all living entities are satisfied. Going on with the commentary, this indicates that all these persons also came to the sacrifice. All were satisfied with the sacrifice by its execution, with all its parts and its beauty. Thus they took permission from the Lord and departed. Text 57 and 58. The Yadus were all embraced by their friends, close family members, and other relatives, including Dhritarashtra and his younger brother Vidura, Pritha, that's Kunti, another name for Kunti, and her sons, Bhishma, Drona, the twins Nakula and Sahadev, Narada, and Vedavyas, the personality of Godhead. Their hearts melting with affection, these and the other guests left for their kingdoms, their progress slowed by the pain of separation. Srila Sanatana Goswami comments that Vyasa and Narada are called Bhagavan because they are avatars. Of course, Narada is a jiva who's an empowered avatar. Both Narada and Vyasa were great gurus and elders. Others were friends, bandhun of the Yadus. Pained by the separation, they departed. Others, Duryodhana, etc., however, were indifferent. Text 59. Nanda Maharaj showed his affection for his relatives, the Yadus, by remaining with them a little longer, together with his cowherds. During his stay, Krishna, Balaram, Ugrasena, and the others honored him with especially opulent worship. Srila Sanatana Goswami comments, when all others had departed by the Lord's arrangement, Krishna then stayed for a long time in Kurukshetra with the people of Vraja without any feeling of restriction. The word too distinguishes Nanda from all the others at Kurukshetra. Therefore, Nanda was worshipped with valuable articles of worship. So that he would remain there a long time, he was continually respected, right? If you want someone to hang around, respect them. Or, though worshipped as was proper for his departure, he stayed there firmly, ni avasit, because he had great affection for his relatives, such as Krishna and Balaram. Or, he had more affection for Krishna and Balaram than for Vasudeva and other relatives, Bandhu. So you'll notice here that Srila Sanatana Goswami is giving several different ways of understanding the Sanskrit, understanding the verse. Was mentioned in the beginning about hermeneutics. So this sort of technique is a hermeneutics technique, giving different possible understandings. He was honored by Krishna, Balaram, Ugrasena, and others, Vasudeva, Akura, and Uddhava, Adhyay, and all the Yadavas. The list starts from the most excellent person, Krishna. Vasudeva, Nanda's dear friend, is not directly mentioned, but later his affection for Nanda and his respect is described. Or there was not any purpose in such a great friend worshipping Nanda. Text 60. Having so easily crossed over the vast ocean of his ambition, Vasudeva felt fully satisfied. In the company of his many well-wishers, he took Nanda by the hand and addressed him as follows. Srila Sanatana Goswami comments, after the death of Kamsa, Vasudeva had the desire that he, along with Krishna and Balaram, should meet the people of Raja somewhere and have a huge festival with all friends, sages, and kings. He was now pleased to have crossed very easily over that great ocean, something hard to arrange. There are a lot of people involved. All the Yadavas had gathered there, Surid Vrita. Or, though surrounded by friends, he ignored others and concentrated on his best friend, Nanda. Out of affection, he held Nanda's hand gently. We see a theme here in the lives of devotees, that devotees have some desire in service, something they want to do in service. And it may take a while for that to come to fruition, especially if it's a very difficult or complicated or costly or involved desire. But Krishna does fulfill all the desires of the devotees. Okay, so we're going to text 61. Shri Vasudeva Uvacha, Brattar Ishar Krita Pasho, nirnam ya sneha samgnita, tam dusya jam aham manye, shuranam api yoginam. Sri Vasudeva Uvacha. Sri Vasudeva said, Brataha, O brother, Isha, by the Supreme Lord, Kritaha, made, Pashaha, the noose, Nirnam, of men, Yaha, which, Sneha, affection, Samgnitaha, named, Tam, it, Dusyajam, difficult to free oneself from, Aham, I, Manye, think, Shuranam, for heroes, Api, even, Yoginam, and for yogis. Translation, Sri Vasudeva said, my dear brother, God himself has tied the knot called affection, which tightly binds human beings together. It seems to me that even great heroes and mystics find it difficult to free themselves from it. Srila Sanatana Goswami comments, oh brother, in friendship there is no difference between brothers and friends because they are made by the Lord. Bonds of affection are hard to give up. Srila Jiva Goswami comments, in these 4 verses, verses 61 to 64, Vasudeva indicates that they are all dependent on Nanda. He addresses Nanda as a brother. Actually, they are cousins. Since we are brothers, there is no difference in how we see our children. The BBT purport is heroic leaders of men try to transcend their petty attachments by force of will, while introspective yogis pursue knowledge for the same purpose. But the Lord's illusory energy, Maya, is much stronger than any conditioned soul. Only by taking shelter of Krishna, the Lord of Maya, can one become immune to her influence. And again, the verse we're focusing on. Sri Vasudeva Vacha Bratar Ishar Krita Pasho Nirnamya Sneha Samgnitaha Tam Dusyajam Aham Manye Shuranam Api Yoginam. My dear brother, God himself has tied the knot called affection, which tightly binds human beings together. It seems to me that even great heroes and mystics find it very difficult to free themselves from it. So we're going to look at this tie of affection. Pasha is a noose, a tie. Sneha is affection. So how we deal with our ties of affection, it rules over our entire life. It rules over our entire life. So if we look up what is the meaning of affection, we look in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, we're going to find affection is defined as a feeling of liking and caring for someone or something. Tender attachment. So not just attachment, tender attachment, liking and caring. But I found another definition absolutely fascinating. And that is the feeling aspect of consciousness. That affection is a pleasurable feeling aspect of consciousness. So consciousness is not just awareness, but it is feeling. It is feeling. So first we're going to look at strengthening our ties, our proper ties of affection, and then we're going to look at cutting off our improper affection. So the original form of affection is spiritual. It exists between the Lord and the living entities. And in this regard, we're going to look at another verse. So we're going to look, this is Srimad Bhagavatam 10.13.50. So Bhagavatam 10.13 is the last chapter that Srila Prabhupada translated. Srila Prabhupada translated this lying on his deathbed in Vrindavan. And everything after chapter 13 in the Bhagavatam of Canto 10 is translated by Prabhupada's disciples. So what's happening in chapter 13 of the 10th canto is that Lord Brahma has stolen Krishna's friends, the boys and the calves, and he's put them in kind of a sleeping condition in a cave. And Krishna, for 1 year, expands himself as duplicates of these boys and calves. Then when Brahma comes back after an earthly year to see what happened, he sees this duplicate set, which bewilders him. And then he sees the duplicate set all turn into Vishnu. So there were thousands and thousands of manifestations of Vishnu. So this is in that context. So text 50 of 10, so 10:13:50, the Srila Prabhupada's translation, those Vishnu forms, by their pure smiling, which resembled the increasing light of the moon, and by the sidelong glances of their reddish eyes, created and protected the desires of their own devotees, as if by the modes of passion and ignorance. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Those Vishnu forms bless the devotees with their clear glances and smiles, which resembled the increasingly full light of the moon, Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam, which of course Prabhupada's quoting from Shikshastika. As maintainers, they glanced upon their devotees, embracing them and protecting them by smiling. Their smiles resembled the mode of goodness, protecting all the desires of the devotees, and the glancing of their eyes resembled the mode of passion. Actually, in this verse, the word rajaha means not passion, but affection. In the material world, rajagun is passion, but in the spiritual world, it is affection. In the material world, affection is contaminated by rajagun and tamagun, but in the Shuddha Sattva, the affection that maintains the devotees is transcendental. So the point here is that Krishna has, and the devotees have, affection. Again, this is the feeling aspect of consciousness. It is a tender, caring type of love. And the Lord has this affection for all living entities. After all, Mamaivam so jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana, we're all part of him. I mean, we all have, I hope, affection for the various parts of our body. We care, again, I hope, unless you have some kind of serious psychological issues that one is dealing with. Generally, we care about our body, right? Like when it's here in the winter, it gets cold, and when it's cold, it gets dry. And so because it's dry, so I have to have some kind of hand cream. Actually, Devotee gave me this in Italy, and I still have it, and it smells really nice. And, and I have to, if I don't put it on my hands, then my hands dry out, especially my thumbs for some reason. So, and yeah, so I'm taking care of my hands. I have some care of my hands, right? And I'm treating them with affection. Why? Because they're part of my body. And similarly, anyone who is part of me, like my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, there's a sense of them being part of me, so I treat them with affection. So this idea of treating our parts with affection originally comes from Krishna, that Krishna is treating us all with affection because we are part of him. He's not treating us with affection dependent on what we do. Just like the mother is a mother, father, they're affectionate to their little tiny baby, even if the baby, I mean, again, unless they have some kind of psychological problem, but, even if the baby is crying a lot, even if the baby is, their diaper is leaking on the parent's clothing, still the parents deal with the child with affection. And this affection is the basis of the relationship between the Lord and the living entities. And the devotee also deals with the Lord with affection. So we want to strengthen this affection. I find it very significant that Srila Prabhupada is quoting the Shikshastika, which is in glorification of the holy name, Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vicharanam, that the Lord's glances from his eyes and his mouth, his glances and smiles look like the expanding moon. Of course, we know a real smile also affects one's eyes. If you smile without your eyes, it's not what we call a real, I forget what that's called, but it's not what we consider a real smile. So actually, Lord Kapila Dev says that the devotee should be meditating on this smile of the Lord, on the laughter of the Lord, in the universal form of the Lord. We mentioned that the Lord's teeth are a manifestation. Its teeth shown when he's smiling is a manifestation of his affection among the devotees. So Krishna cares for us, and he loves us in a caring way. Sometimes that may not be so apparent in our lives. We all go through difficulty in life. If you haven't gone through any difficulty in life, just wait a little bit. I always tell people there is no way you can arrange your life in this world so that there won't be any difficulty. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to get everyone to like you and everyone to be honest with you and everyone to be reliable and the weather always to be what you want it to be, the right amount of rain at the right time and the right amount of temperature and how much money you get, exactly when and how, and that's not going to happen. There's going to be difficulty. And so the question has always come up among religious leaders, and the main argument of the atheists is, if God actually has affection for us, why is there difficulty? And of course, the answer for that primarily is in the law of karma and reincarnation, that we're creating our own difficulty. My daughter was telling me yesterday about we were talking about grief because one of our dear friends has recently passed away. And my daughter was talking about this one family where their child died of a drug overdose. So that taking of drugs, getting addicted to drugs, having a drug overdose is not the desire of the parents. The fact that this child suffered even to the point of dying at a young age from being addicted to drugs, the parents are not responsible for that. The child, the adult, their adult child, was responsible himself. So our suffering in this world comes from our own karma. We have foolishly engaged in activities that give us reactions that we don't like. Now, we tend to think I'm going to act however I want and I won't get any reactions, but that's like thinking I'm going to park in front of a fire hydrant and I won't get a ticket. It's not exactly that we want the reactions, but we do activities thinking that we're going to be immune from a negative reaction, but the laws of the universe are not like that. We get reactions. You could say, well, what about the devotees? Yasvindra Gopa Matavendra Mahoswagarma Bandhana Rupa Bhajam Balabhajam Atanoti Karmadi Nirjahati Kintu Tabakti Bhajam, that the devotees don't have karma. Well, first of all, some of our karmic reactions may still happen because Krishna feels that we still need to learn that lesson. And another reason that Krishna puts us in situations of difficulty is that we may not be responsive to situations of happiness. It may be that if we're happy, that we don't learn our lessons, we don't become introspective. If you don't want Krishna to put you into positions of suffering in order to learn lessons, then learn lessons when he puts you in position of happiness. Krishna may also put his devotees in positions of suffering as part of the whole plot of adventure that he's doing in the world, like Vasudeva and Devaki being in prison so that Kamsa's atrocities could be more visible to the world. And the devotees agree to take that role, but they don't experience it as suffering. So the devotees who see that Krishna's hand is there with affection actually always feel grateful to the Lord. They always feel grateful to the Lord. And therefore, the devotees' affection to the Lord also is always increasing. Krishna's affection for the devotees are increasing, and the devotees' affection to the Lord is increasing. And this tie of affection, this pashu sneha or sneha pashu, is something that we should tighten. I often give the example in the Madhava Mahotsava, where Srimati Radharani is crowned as the Queen of Vrindavan. At the end of that ceremony, she blesses everyone. She says, may all bound persons be liberated. And her friends become very upset. They say, we are bound to you with affection. We do not want to be liberated from that. So we should be meditating on how Krishna is showing his love for us. We should be meditating on Krishna's beauty, his smile, his eyes. We should be meditating on his kindness. We should be meditating on his pastimes here with the devotees, how kind he is to Nanda and Vasudeva, how much he is staying, right? He's being asked, stay a little longer. And so Krishna is staying longer and so forth. He's to meditate like this so that we increase our natural affection for him, that we open up our natural affection for him. However, we want to cut off the ties of affection that are based on false ego. What happens to a conditioned soul is that this spiritual affection, as Prabhupada says, gets transformed into Rajagun, what Prabhupada translates as the mode of passion. Rajagun is a pious type of ego, but it's transactional. Tamagun is also transactional, but it's impious. It tends toward the sinful. People in Tamagun will only be pious if it's convenient. People in Rajagun will be pious even at great sacrifice and difficulty to them, but it's transactional. In other words, I'm going to be affectionate to people who do things for me that I like. If I have something to get, it's a merchant kind of mentality. And it's very much centered on me. I'm affectionate to those who please me, and I'm not going to be affectionate to those who don't please me or please someone I care about or something like that. And this type of affection, Krishna says in the 32nd chapter of the 10th canto, Krishna says that this kind of transactional love actually has no love. He says it has no friendship and it has no love. And if it starts going into Tamagun, it doesn't even have any dharma. And it can't give anyone any kind of satisfaction. So what is this kind of Rajagun tie of affection that we need to cut? It's this concept that I have affection for mine, what is like me again, and that serves me. And what is materialistic tie of affection leads to sectarianism. I love the people in my religious group, and I don't have affection for people in another religious group. And sectarianism can go to the point of torture and persecution. In religious history, we have one Muslim group is torturing and persecuting another Muslim group, like the Sunnis and the Shiites, or against the Sufis. And then we have in Christianity, the Roman Catholics have a long history of torture and persecution of other Christian groups, different Protestant groups, and even Protestant groups. A lot of the history of the United States is basically Protestant groups, various Protestant groups escaping persecution and sometimes torture and death in Europe. So even the Quakers were being persecuted by other Protestant groups. The Mennonites and the Amish were being persecuted by other Protestant groups. They were being persecuted by Catholic groups. And we have the Muslims fighting against the Christians and the Muslims fighting against the Jews. And this kind of tie of affection should be broken. Similarly, a nationalistic tie of affection. Our country, yay, yay, yay. Every other country, you're all terrible. Right? And this again leads to wars. It leads to wars, it leads to discrimination, it leads to genocide, prejudices, racism. Only the people of my race are good, the people of other races are not. And this racism, there was in Rwanda, there was the civil war between the two different, I forget, two T's and something. And, to someone outside Rwanda, we look at them and say, it looks like you're the same race to me. But what for them, it was genocide. They were killing each other. So this kind of tie of affection. Also, nepotism. I'm going to put my friends, my relatives in positions of authority, positions of power, even if they're not qualified, but they're mine. I'm going to, put my son, my daughter, my cousin, right? Someone who gives me money, I'm going to give them some position. And an interesting side of this kind of tie of affection is when people will sacrifice ethics and the greater good to take care of one's own people. They'll give up state secrets and in order to protect their own, to get money for their family, for example. Or someone there, if you don't commit this crime, I'm going to shoot your mother. So they'll commit the crime in order, they'll kill hundreds of people in order to protect their family member. We see the opposite with Lord Ramachandra, who for the sake of the kingdom banished his own wife. And this materialistic ties of affection pushes us to take another birth. Yam yam babi sram babam twajachante kalevram tam tam evaitikante asadatat baba babita. If we're thinking my country, my family, my nation, my this, my that, we'll take another birth in that country. Maybe not as a human being, Prabhupada would say. So Kunti asked to be free of this Sneha Pashu. She said, please free me from this materialistic tie of affection. Kritaduti, the wife of Chitraketu, she lamented these ties of affection when her very young son died. She said, why does the Lord give us these ties of affection just to break them? Prahlad Maharaj says these ties of affection are the reason that family life is a life of bondage. Narada Muni talks about how when he was a child, he was bound to his mother with ties of affection. Now, what's interesting is that when we strengthen our tie of affection to Krishna, we then get a tie of affection to everyone, but not in a sectarian, nationalistic, family-centered, leading to war and nepotism and persecution and racism, and not in that way. We become full of affection for everyone equally, without first having a firm tie of affection for the Lord. We cannot have equal affection for all living entities. We will think in terms of my country, my religion, my family, my race, my gender, my whatever we're, associating ourselves with, identifying ourselves with. We will not be able to treat everyone equally. There will be exploitation. There will be conflict. So many religious groups want to encourage materialistic ties of affection because it's better to be in Rajagun than in Tamagun. It's better to take care of your family and your country rather than to be irresponsible. But in transcendence, we say, take this inclination to be tied by affection to someone with whom you associate, to someone who you think is like yourself, is part of yourself, and take that to the supreme self, Krishna. At which point one will see that everyone and everything is connected with that central point. And that will give us the actually satisfying affection we want for our friends, our family member, our nation and community, without the negative side of denigrating anybody else. We will no longer see anyone as the other. So we want to go to the origin, to the pure form of affection, as it says in the dictionary, the feeling part of consciousness. And then we can easily see the twisted form. We can see it for what it is. We see that it's all based on selfishness and false ego. And then we can easily let go of that twisted form. So we have about 10 minutes. We have time for questions, comments, discussions. Okay, I can see there's some things here.
Thank you very much, Urmila Devidasi. A quick question, just to follow up on what we just heard. It says in the Shastra that if one doesn't have devotion, even though they may have all these good qualities, it's all worthless compared to someone who has devotion. and has all kinds of setbacks and shortcomings. And then it says in the Shastra also that even if one makes mistakes, big mistakes, if they're situated in devotional service, they're considered saintly. So, what's the difference between this and what we just talked about, nepotism and all this group consciousness? This group is beneath.
Okay, so if you're not having Krishna at the center, then even though you may love your family and love your country, it's ultimately egotistical, and it will result in some kind of sense of mine and the other. It will result in some going to bad qualities as soon as you feel that those with whom you identify or yourself, your own ego, is being threatened in some way. One will give up one's good qualities. As long as one is identifying with this fallible, shaky, fragile world, as soon as that's threatened, we throw away our good qualities. For those who try to make Krishna at the center, if they do something wrong, it's not that they don't have to rectify. If your child commits a crime, you may still want them to go to jail. But because they're on the right path of spirituality, those things will be rectified and they will come to the proper position. So better to be a spiritualist, even if you make mistakes, than a so-called wonderful materialist, because at least you're on the right path. At least you're on the path to ultimate caring of all living entities. Again, if a spiritually minded person commits some serious crime, they still need to pay for it. They can't, otherwise that's an offense. That's sinning on the strength of chanting. And that's a kind of nepotism. Well, I'm God's devotee, so he's going to pay my bail.
I
That's
see.
Krishna doesn't appreciate that at all. He's like, no, not like, you like sometimes, if your relative is on the police force, they give you a little card, and if you're arrested, you can show the card and say, my grandfather is a police officer. But they might say, hey, maybe you need to spend the night in jail, or maybe you need to pay your fine.
Thank you. Very clear. Jeffrey Eckler, followed by Manohar, Sage of Steady Mind.
Hare Krishna, thank you for this class and thank you for explaining this so clearly. However, I'm a little bit slow and I would ask that you clarify the last point you were making. I wrote a note and I don't know if I'm accurate, but the idea is that if we recognize that our affection with rajasic tendencies, for those that we identify with or feel common ground with, if we recognize that that affection is actually tied to the supreme and that emanates from that source, does that elevate that affection to a sattvic level, or does that elevate that affection beyond the gunas into some form of spiritual affection? I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, okay. Well, sattvic affection is still contaminated. Sattvic affection is not likely to turn into wars and persecution, but it is still egotistical. It's still based on, I feel really good when I feel affection. And above the modes is that I have affection for all living entities because they're part and parcel of Krishna. And it makes Krishna happy. One should find the real form of that affection. So once we recognize that, we look for the real form of it. We say, what is the origin of this that is actually going to be attractive? And that the reason I'm attracted to even the rajasic form of it is because it's coming from something real. We don't want to cut it off and be hard-hearted. Or be like a stone. That's not the idea. We want to see that the reason that I'm finding some pleasure and some inclination for this is that it has some reality. Let me go to the reality. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I guess what you're saying is that if we fully accept and understand that and realize that in our lives, then we have the ability to live that in this body.
Yes. And it's probably, we'll say gradual and proportional.
Hare
It's not
Krishna.
an on-off switch. It's not that either I'm in Rajagun or I'm in transcendence. It's a
Right.
continuum. So I want to move in that direction. Oh, Prabhupada does talk about the one switch that lights up everything. So it is possible to immediately come to the platform of transcendent affection. That is possible. It is also possible to do it gradually and proportionally, either way.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Pray for me that I become capable. Maybe one day.
We are all capable. We are all capable. We are all, that is our original position. It is our natural position. These other things are artificial. So we are all fully capable. Yes.
Jai. Manohar Prabhu followed by Kaviraj Bhima.
I'll go in the afterglow.
Okay.
Well, hopefully she will, Prabhu Jeannie will still be around.
Hare Krishna, Mother Mary. Thank you for giving class. Nice to
Hare
see you.
Krishna.
Looking forward to seeing you soon in New York for your 4-day seminar end of
Just
April.
a few weeks.
It's a few weeks. My question, hopefully I can see if I can articulate this. Sometimes we get this overarching mood of negligence, that I should neglect the body or neglect relationships or things like this. This can be like a prevalent mood. But it sounds like from what you're saying that it's not negligence, it's affection in connection with Krishna, seeing that everything is belonging to Krishna, related to Krishna, this body is related to Krishna, these people are related to Krishna. Could you elaborate more on the difference between these things and how to cultivate that true connection of everything?
So there's two kinds of illusion. One is that this doesn't belong to anybody and therefore I can neglect it. And the other is it belongs to me and therefore I should take good care of it. So usually the renunciates tend to the first type and the householders tend to the second type. Well, the car doesn't belong to anybody. I won't change the oil and I won't check the tire pressure. And the grahasta's like, it's my car, therefore I'm going to take care of it. So the better thing is it's Krishna's car. Let me take care of it for him. And especially if it's a gift, we have things perhaps that people give us as gifts. Like my little recording device was given to me as a gift. And then I just got this nice e-reader tablet as a gift. So, we take care of it. It's connected to a person. What to speak of, everything's connected to Krishna. How can we neglect it? We shouldn't neglect anything. Okay, we had one more question, which I don't know if we can take that or we're going to have the curtains open now.
The curtains are about to open, but thank you for that answer. I feel like I fall into the mix of both, where because it's mine, so I can neglect it.
So when Krishna gives us our quota, it's not here, this is yours so that you can do whatever you want with it. It's here, this is yours so you can take care of it in my service. When parents give their children toys, it's not with the idea that the children can break it or break it over their brother's head. I didn't give you this toy so you could immediately smash it to smithereens, and I didn't give you this toy so you can take it and bonk your brother over the head with it. I gave you the toy so you could play with it nicely and grow in your development. So Krishna is giving us all these things out of kindness to use in his service. He's not giving us things that, oh, now it's mine. Then I can do what I like with it. Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Thank you, Urmila Devidasi. Do you have a few minutes to stay after darshan?
No, actually, I'm meeting with some people, and they're waiting outside my door to meet
Then
me.
then please appoint someone to answer questions during the afterglow.
You appoint whatever you want, as you.
Okay, thank you for empowering me. Okay, I
Okay.
appoint. Thank you. Thank you very much. Urmila Devidasi, Prabhu Ki Jai.
No
Srila
problem.
Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Take shelter because Srila Prabhupada, the key.
Jai. Bhima Prabhu, you still have your question? Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, are you available to take some questions? Jagannath Gopal Prithu Prabhu.
I'll try, Prabhu. I'll try.
He'll try. Bhima Prabhu, please go ahead. He'll try. That's all. That's all that's required. Just need to give it a try. Bhima Prabhu. It was darshan time. You were supposed to be by your phone taking darshan of the deities.
I take a snapshot in my heart and I carry them with me on my day's events, Prabhu. Just like this
Great.
picture of you, just like you with this bed head and 5 o'clock shadow, you look like a GQ model. Well, it's not a question now because I really wanted to ask Urmila because of the things that she said. And I just wanted to get her response, her vibe on it. But that one thing that I have come to understand in my life, unactive and active devotional life, is that we show affection beginning with, let's say, as a neophyte, the deities. We show up, we make garlands, we do the mantras and offer the whisk, the chamara, the light, and the incense. So these things are signs of affection. Love is an action verb, is an action word. So we show these signs of affection. It must be made manifest. But that, we are told, is a third-class devotee. And that the second-class devotee sees Krishna and shows his affection to Krishna by manifesting in his behavior to these people. The second-class devotee shows love and affection to other devotees. So that's second class. So you're rising up. It's not that you are doing wrong by getting intimate connections and affections with your own family members, what to speak of your friends in devotional service. And then the first class devotee realizes he is affectionate to Krishna, made manifest by his overall love with a capital L. As Urmila was speaking, you get to this point whereby if you love Krishna, you'll see him everywhere, and therefore you will increase your love for all, because you will always be behaving towards them and treating them as if they are the children of Krishna at all times, no matter what religion they're part of, like Nirmala said, without sectarianism. So I just wanted to sort of tie that knot, because sometimes I remember when I was a brahmachari, the callousness that arose for, during that time, even in amongst brahmacharis. This was back in the day when the movement was young and we were not instructed otherwise. But nowadays we are told that, that these things are true. We must try to see Krishna everywhere. And then, as Prabhupada said, the grihastas are my best devotees, and the Matajis are even better than the sannyasis. So we should always remember that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Adipusha Prabhu. Meru. Hare Krishna, Meru. Good to see you. Does Meru have a question?
Hare Krishna. So glad. Bhima, you're awesome. And so proud of you. He's doing so fantastic. So nice to see you all.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you just said. Could you please repeat it? You said, Bhima, you are what?
Awesome. I'm so proud of you. You're doing so fantastic. You're saying such a great things. Like listening to you is like amazing. So thank you for what you add in the mornings. It's my second time I heard you speak, so it's fantastic.
Anyway. His nickname is Bhima Kaviraj, a poet.
Ananda Bihari, good to see you. Hare
Good
Krishna.
to see you, Meru. See, Bhima Prabhu, Meru only loves you because you're part of Krishna. So don't get too proud.
No, I'm proud of you, not of me.
Okay,
and we're all children of Adi Purush.
Yeah, we're all children of Adi.
Adi Purush is the founder Acharya of the dacoit class of New York City streets, of which Ananda Bihari is secretary treasurer.
Yeah.
We should wear motorcycle jackets without motorcycles.
Jeffrey Eckler has the same haircut as Adi.
I'll join that gang easy. I'll join that gang.
Yeah. Let's be a gang.
We'll send you an apron.
Ananda, I just had one question. When she talked about like the Brahmins, so because they can't get a salary, but then people support them with charity. To me, it comes out to the same thing. I really don't see the difference. It seems to be semantics, words. I just don't see what's the difference. And I don't see there's anything wrong with them getting a salary. So,
Brahmanas on salary. All right. Adipusha Prabhu, do you have anything to say on that?
Of course, we can look at Chanakya Pandit. He was the advisor serving in the medical capacity to the emperor. But he didn't live in the palace. He didn't get a salary. He lived in a little hut in the woods. Mm-hmm. And when somebody's paying you, the tendency is just like a lot of churches, they hire the priest, they hire the preacher. Then there's a tendency to kowtow or to tell people what they want to hear and not say anything that they don't want to hear. So you're not really free to speak the truth. Mm. But a Brahmin is completely detached from having these strings on him, so therefore the donation is something that's given from the heart in a quantity and a time when the person feels like they want to support. It's not like, now where's my paycheck today? Understand? Does that answer your question, Agent?
Yes, in a sense, I understand the difference theoretically, but in reality, if someone is always giving charity to the Brahmin, he knows who's giving it. It seems that it would be the same issue could possibly come up.
That can happen, but a genuine Brahminical person wants to say what Krishna wants to say. He's not a people pleaser. He's not obliged to flatter somebody for the sake of the donation. Of course, people may try to manipulate by giving donations, but a real Brahmin will not be restrained from telling the honest truth out of concern that this is what Krishna wants to say to you. Just like all the prophets in the Old Testament, a lot of them were killed. Jesus was killed. Prabhupada, I was just listening to Prabhupada yesterday. He said they killed him. Why? Because he was speaking the truth. Right? What did Jesus get a salary?
I don't think so.
I have a comment. If everybody finished, Meru's finished.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Haripurusha Prabhu.
I had an opportunity. Krishna gave me the opportunity to hear from 3 different devotees. Prabhupada would do this thing where somebody would travel with him, like Shruti Kirti, what's his name, Guladri, and not what's his, I can't think of the other devotee. Anyway, I heard from 3 of Prabhupada's personal associates who each traveled with him and were his direct, intimate servant for a long time. And I asked them, well, what did you learn by being with Prabhupada? And all 3 of them agreed that there's really one lesson we all have to learn. And it's nothing added on like a coat of paint. Our natural propensity is to be a loving person, to be a servant of Krishna. And by the grace of the spiritual master, we get the grace of Krishna. The spiritual master is training us. He's Krishna's representative. And the way we treat our guru, the way we learn to serve the guru, obey the guru, please the guru, is actually helping us to reawaken our love for Krishna. The lotus feet of the spiritual master is the only way to obtain pure devotional service. So the tendency, they said, Shruti Kirti especially said, what I learned from being with Prabhupada is I have a tendency to try to serve the way I want to serve, to do what pleases me which is, in the line of service, which is good. But if you're right there and you're not doing what Srila Prabhupada is asking you to do, your feet are held to the fire. Prabhupada lets you know. And you realize you can become familiar. You can become, your pride, your false ego can get in the way of serving your spiritual master. And it be disguised as service, but it's not really totally focused on this, because they said Prabhupada was involved in active preaching activity, traveling, dealing with situations with a lot of moving parts, dealing with personalities, dealing with, and Prabhupada would tell me to do something, and then 5 minutes later, he'd say, no, do something else. And I had to be ready to turn on a dime and change. Yes, Prabhupada. I wasn't, but you said that. No. So it's very interesting to be the servant of the spiritual master, and we all are, and we're all learning this lesson of how actually to love. What we're doing may or may not be rigidly consistent. We have to be flexible and focused on very carefully. Is this what he wants? Is this how he wants it? Somebody said Prabhupada asked for a glass of water, and he thought, well, I'll get him a glass of milk. Milk is better. But he didn't want milk. Anyway, I'm not sure how clear that realization was, but I heard that by Krishna's arrangement. I heard that conversation, and all 3 of them agreed that what they learned by being Prabhupada's servant was to actually be focused on not just what you're doing, but who you're doing it for. And what does he want right now? And exactly how does he want it? And is this the way that will please him or not? Anyway, I'm tired to talk so long. Regards to Srila Prabhupada, she was talking about affection. So we're learning how to reawaken our natural affectionate capacity. Hare
By
Krishna.
doing service in the right mood.
To a person, to a person, you know. The smarta Brahmins, they follow all the rules and regulations. The Pharisees, Jesus said to them, you're straining at a gnat and you're swallowing a camel. You're following all the rules and regulations, but you have the letter of the law, but you've forgotten the spirit of the law. The spirit is love. Spirit is that we're serving a person, and we're not just trying to follow a bunch of rules. We don't surrender to an institution, to a building, to a list of rules. We surrender to a person. We develop love and trust to a person. And we see that this person is actually, the classic temple president. They see this person has my best interest in heart. He's not trying to make himself into a tin god in my life and make me a feather in his cap. He's only giving me instructions for my benefit. And that's how we please Krishna, by pleasing the spiritual master. I'm talking too long. I'll go to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Hadipusha Prabhu.
Thank you.
Okay, Annabelle, Hare Krishna. Can you unmute yourself and say Hare Krishna?
It's not too happy. I'm telling you.
It's not Annabelle, Hadi. This is Angel. Annabelle, Hare Krishna. Karen, please unmute Annabelle. Isaiah. Oh, how about both of you say Hare Krishna at the same time? Whoever says Hare Krishna first wins.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. That was so sweet. Okay. Hare Krishna. See you again tomorrow. We love you and we need you. Hold on. Dana Krishna's Radharani is here. Hold it. Dana Krishna's Radharani, welcome. You're late. We're finishing. But please unmute yourself and say what you wanted to say.
I'm super duper late because, and then I came and I was like, I have to come. I have to. So I apologize for being so late. I'm so glad that you guys still welcome me in and they're not like, we're locking the door, you're out. So, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you. Thank you very much.